Would you like to find out what my top 5 luxury foundations are for my mature skin? Then please keep watching. Welcome to Beauty by Des. I'm Des, I'm over 60 and I love talking about makeup, skincare, clothes and other bits and bobs that make me happy. If that sounds like your kind of thing, then please consider giving me a good thumbs up because it lets me know I'm on the right track. And better yet, subscribe to the channel because that way YouTube puts my video in front of other older women who might enjoy this kind of content. So without further ado, let's crack on. So I'm going to talk you through how I chose the foundations and tell you a bit about my skin. So my skin is normal. I mean, it's mature, obviously, but it's normal, but it's also allergic to fragrance. So I had to choose foundations that didn't have any fragrance in them whatsoever. And believe me, at the higher end of the market, that's quite tricky because, for example, all the Dior foundations appear to have fragrance in them. So they were a definite no-no, even though they're incredibly popular with other mature skinned women on YouTube. So I had to choose those. I chose them in the price bracket. So I didn't go massively high end. I didn't go up to sort of La Mer or what's that other one, Clé de Peau. I didn't go near those because they're sort of 100 quid or something. So I chose, the price bracket was around 30 to 44 pounds, which I guess is about $35 to $50. So not ridiculously high end, but when you think that the lower end of the market is really between about £5 or £6 up to about 15, and it is at least double. So they were all pretty high end, I would say. But I wanted to give them a good go and I wanted to try at least 2 that I'd never tried before. So that's what I did. I got together 5 foundations that I thought would be suitable for mature skin like mine. So what I did was, after having chosen them, I decided I would film on 5 consecutive days, and you'll see in the inserts in a moment. I chose 1 foundation a day. I did a morning film, a lunchtime film and an evening or nighttime film just before I went to bed. And I used exactly the same skincare each time and exactly the same makeup on top. So I didn't use any powder on my face at all, apart from under my eyes and on top of my eyes once I put my concealer on. I used exactly the same concealer, the same blusher, the same bronzer, the same everything really, except maybe the lipstick and the eyeshadow, but obviously they don't affect the foundation. So I tried to make a level playing field for all the foundations. So before I tell you what they are, let me just tell you what some of the ingredients are, because I decided I would have try and have a really deep dive into the ingredients to see why some of them worked better than others. So 2 of the foundations included an ingredient called, and I'm going to have to read this out, cyclopentasiloxane, which is a silicone which produces a silky smooth texture but apparently is of minimal benefit to the skin, and it's usually used in lower priced foundations because it's inexpensive. All the foundations had dimethicone in them, which is a silicone which leaves a silky finish, seals in hydration, forms a water resistant film on the skin and gives a matte finish. The other ingredient that they all have is butylene glycol, which is a humectant and an emollient, which lets in good ingredients and prevents water loss. So without further ado, let's start with number 5. So number 5 is a MAC foundation and it is called Studio Fix Fluid SPF 15. Now, I am not a MAC wearer. I've never had a MAC foundation before. Now, one of the reasons I've decided to try a MAC foundation is because I was trying to identify a full coverage foundation, because one of my fantastic subscribers, and by the way, thank you so much if you have subscribed, it means the world to me, she suggested I try a full coverage foundation. So I went along to the MAC counter in my local shopping mall and I came away with something that isn't actually, isn't a full coverage, but she said she thought it would be suitable for my skin, so I said, okay. Right, let me just pop a little bit on and show you. I'm in the shade NW Beige. Now, I actually found this far too light. In the shop, it seemed okay, but you know, it's always a bit tricky to tell under artificial light, especially in department stores. It gives various promises. It'll control shine, it refines your skin, it's 24-hour wear, it's suitable for all skin types, especially oily skin. Now, she didn't tell me that, and actually I'm quite annoyed because it turns out that actually it's quite drying on my skin, I have to say. Now, what I usually do is, the way I tell if it's drying, because my skin isn't dry, my skin is normal, but it does have a couple of sort of dry patches, particularly here. So I usually look here to see whether it's done any sort of separating and drying and flaking, and also around the nose, which I think a lot of us have as we get older, but this is my particular place. I also look to see in terms of coverage whether it covers this zit here, which you probably can't see. Anyway, I'm afraid to say I was rather disappointed with this. It was drying. I thought it looked aging. I don't think it did anything to my skin in terms of making it glowy. It's interesting now, reading some of the claims, if I'd read these before I bought the foundation, I wouldn't have bought it because it says things like sweat resistant. I don't sweat. Oil free, not bothered about that. Not bothered whether it has SPF in it or not, to be honest, but it does. I don't mind either way. But I really wouldn't have chosen it had I read some of this. However, I have chosen it, I've got it. I think if I mixed it perhaps with a bit of moisturiser, it might be better, but I am really disappointed and I don't think it's suitable for mature skin at all. So I'll definitely cross that off my list. So my number 4 is the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better Foundation. Now, this is the one I've had for the longest. I've had this for quite a few months now. And in fact, I did a video, which I'll link up in the corner for you down below in the description box, a few months ago, where I pitted the IT Cosmetics against the Lisa Eldridge. So I know I like this. It's not a full coverage by any means, but let me just swatch a tiny bit for you here. It's not too liquidy, but it's a little bit liquidy. It's probably the pinkiest shade of all the colours that I've got, and I just chose it on the site. Maybe not quite as intelligently as I should have, but it's not a bad colour on me, and you'll see in the inserts. I think it looks okay. Now, this is the one that sells itself as having skin-loving ingredients, or one of the ones that does that. Now, I've got over 60-year-old skin. I don't think the ingredients are going to make a difference to my skin anytime soon or at all. So I wasn't buying it for that. I used to have the CC cream, the IT Cosmetics CC cream, but I found that quite heavy coverage really. And I did used to persevere with it, but I never really loved it. And I think I have to say I prefer this one. It's a nice light coverage. It's almost like wearing a tinted moisturiser rather than a foundation, but the coverage is quite good. So I think it's a pleasant foundation to wear, but I have to say, if I compared it to my L'Oreal True Match foundation, which costs about £6, so about, what's that? This is probably almost 6 times, certainly 5 times as expensive as the L'Oreal True Match. The L'Oreal True Match is far superior in my view, because it gives better coverage, but with the same consistency. But it's still fine, it's okay, and I shall continue to use it until it's used up. Or would I buy it again? Probably not. Well, number 3 might come as a bit of a surprise to you, and it is the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Foundation. Now, I've done a couple of videos on that, the Battle of the Foundations, which I mentioned just before, and I also did a review of when I bought the cards, which, by the way, if you're watching this and you're trying to get your hands on the cards, one of my fantastic subscribers said that you can order them. I think I wrongly said to someone in the comments that you couldn't get the cards anymore, but apparently you can. Maybe it depends where you are in the world, but they are slow to arrive. Anyway, those are the cards that help you to choose the colour of the foundation, the colour and the shade of the foundation that you might want. So I did a video on that, but I then decided to go to the store actually that she had. She had a pop-up store in about November last year. So I popped down there to check which shade I should get, and they said 14, so that's what I got. Anyway, I do really like this foundation. Let me just swatch a little bit for you. I think the colour is good. There has been some debate amongst my subscribers as to whether I've got a yellowy neck or not, and whether this shade really suits me. But that's the shade I've got at the moment, and it's a 14. And I think it's fine. I mean, I can see Again, of course, it depends entirely on the light as to how your neck looks as compared to your face. And I'm not in natural light because I don't have a natural light room to film in, unfortunately. Every space is filled with stuff and it's very difficult to find anywhere to film. So I'm not using natural light at the moment, although I do go outside with my camera on my phone and show you what it's like in natural light. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but I know that my neck and my face are perhaps slightly different hues or tones. But anyway, I really like the Lisa Eldridge and I think the colour is fine. So the coverage is nice. I think what with the Lisa Eldridge is it's quite a stiff foundation. It doesn't seem to have a lot of give. And when you read how to apply it, I mean, again, she does say dot it on the face and apply with a brush. It doesn't give much. There's not a lot of stretch in it. So it's not as easy to apply, let's say, some of the more liquidy foundations. I do think it's good for mature skin. It certainly worked on mine. There wasn't any cakiness. Once it was on, it stayed put. It looked nice. It was a little bit glowy. There was definitely no glow with the MAC foundation at all. There is a glow with the IT Cosmetics because it's got those skin-loving ingredients. And with the Lisa Eldridge, I think there is a bit of a glow, even though, as I say, it's quite a hard foundation. It's not a very liquidy one. But I really like it. I think the colour's great. It's the most expensive of all the foundations that I've tested today. But I do really like it. Whether I'd repurchase it or not, I don't know. The jury's out at the moment, but I will continue to use it anyway. So number 2 in my mature luxury skin foundations is the Charlotte Tilbury. And this is the Beautiful Skin Foundation. And I am in the shade 6. I have to say it was a hard choice between this one and number 1 actually, but I really love this foundation. First of all, it's so easy to apply. I must say, I really love a tube. A tube is definitely my favourite type of application because it's so easy. You just do a pump like you were doing your skincare. And there it is. It's got a bit of liquidity about it, if that's the right expression. As you can see, it's running down my hand. The shade is ideal. It has a really helpful shade match on the on its website. It was really simple. I mean, I kind of knew what shade I was anyway because I used to use, I've forgotten the name of the foundation now. Back in the day, I used to wear whatever the foundation was called. Oh, Light Wonder, that was it. Yeah, I used to wear Light Wonder, so I knew that I was either a 5 or a 6. I think I used to have both 5 and 6, depending on what colour I was, depending on the season. But anyway, I really like this foundation. I think it's easy to apply. It stays on. It gives a glow. It says it's vegan. It covers where I want it to cover. It didn't do any flaking here. I mean, Charlotte makes all sorts of claims about what it does for your skin. I'm not really interested in that because I don't really believe them. And I know that all these foundations, when they say, oh, they're tested on, you know, so when they give a percentage of how many people said how great it was, the sample size is so tiny. It's usually about 80 or 90 women, if that, might be even less. So I don't bother with the marketing claims, really. I'm just interested in whether it works for me or not. And it really does. I absolutely love it. And I will definitely keep wearing it. And I may well repurchase it. And now, drum roll please, for my number 1 foundation for mature skins in the luxury market is Estee Lauder Double Wear. Now, you could have knocked me down with a feather if you told me that I was going to say that an Estee Lauder foundation and a Double Wear foundation was going to be my number 1. I'm not sure I've ever even owned an Estee Lauder foundation, so I just chose it on a whim. Again, when I was out in the shopping mall looking for foundations for this video, I just thought, let's just try Double Wear because it's so popular. Will I like it? Let me give it a go. And I have to say, I really loved it. Now, it comes in a bottle like the MAC. If I'd known, I would have bought an applicator, although it is a £5, which is quite a lot. But anyway, let me just show you what it looks like. I'll just try and take a tiny bit out. And that's it there. So it's got some liquidity about it, but it's not too liquid. It applies really easily. It stayed on all day. It gave a glow. It didn't settle in here and make it all flaky. It covered my zit. It did everything that I want a foundation to do. I really loved it. And I'm amazed I don't know why I'm amazed. I shouldn't be really, because after all, Estee Lauder have been at it for some considerable time, a lot longer than Charlotte Tilbury and Lisa Eldridge, for example, or even MAC. But it is a wonderful foundation and I'm really, really pleased with it. Forgot to say, I'm in the shade 2C2, which is called Pale Almond. I must admit, I wouldn't have said that my skin was pale almond, but hey ho. And that is what I'm wearing today. So what do you think? I am really delighted with it, I must say. And it's not super expensive. It's one of the more inexpensive ones of the 5 that I've chosen. It's £35. It's not the cheapest. I think it's the 3rd in the list. So we've got the MAC at £29, followed by the IT Cosmetics at I think 34, followed by the Estee Lauder, which is 35. Then we come to the Charlotte Tilbury, which I think is 36, and then we jump up to Lisa, which is 44. So there's quite a price range there, so from £29 to £44. But I honestly think the Estee Lauder is the winner. However, the Charlotte comes a very close second. So there you have it. Those are my 5 foundations for mature skin, ranked from 5 to 1. If you found this video helpful, informative, or even amusing, then please consider subscribing to the channel, giving me a thumbs up, and hitting the notification bell. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I hope you'll join me on my next video, which will be about finding the perfect pair of jeans. See you then. Bye.